Hello, I'm Tom at Ledgemere. You see I've got two garden tractors here. On my left, this is a brand new Cub Cadet Gsx XT3, and on my right is a 7-year-old John Deere X530. They're similar tractors as far as the class, and I'm going to go over both of them, or what I feel like is an apples and apples comparison for a Cub Cadet and a John Deere. And before I go any further, I want to give honorable mention to Husqvarna and Simplicity, because they also make good garden tractors, but I don't have experience really with either one of them. So I'm going to just talk about two tractors that I do have experience with. So hopefully you'll stick around for a couple minutes, and I'll go point for point on each one. And which one is better? Well, we'll let you decide, so stick around. So in looking at these two tractors, we're going to do the comparison side by side, and we'll just start at the front and work our way backwards. How's that? In 2015, I bought the John Deere X530 on the left. What I really wanted was a John Deere X540, but the model had been discontinued. And one of the reasons I really wanted the 540 was that it came with a 48-inch deck. This one only came with a 54-inch deck. And if you have a great big flat lawn, that's not a problem. If you've got lawns that have obstacles, mostly rocks is what I have here, and the big deck just is more of a hindrance and a liability. I'm always getting hung up with a 54-inch deck, whether it's, just getting jammed up on one side or I'm hitting stuff. Now, having said that, with the wider deck, yes, you can make a shorter diameter as far as your turning diameter with your mower, not necessarily with the tractor itself, but with the bigger deck, it makes the circle smaller. So going around trees, going under fences, things like that, under bushes, the wider deck is really handy. However, what I really wanted was the 48-inch deck. So right there was the first thing about John Deere that I didn't like. And you can buy now an X580, which is essentially the same tractor. And you can also buy the X584, which is the four-wheel steer version. And I'm not sure what the 530 four-wheel steer number was. It might have been a 534, but I really don't remember. And that could have been bought with a 48-inch deck or a 54 if I remember correctly. So what you've got here is a Cub Cadet Gsx. It's brand new, and it's a shaft drive tractor. They have an XT1, an XT2 that are belt driven, and they're also a garden tractor, but I really wanted a shaft drive one, so that's what this one is. And so the only apples to orange difference I've got here is the John Deere's belt drive, and all the 500 series are belt driven. You have to go to like a 700 series to get a shaft drive. And the Cub Cadet, the XT3 series, are shaft driven. The XT1, XT2 are belt drive. So with that said, with the garden tractor series, Cub Cadet has two of them in the XT3 class. They don't have any lawn tractors in the XT3, only two garden tractors, the GS and the GSX. And either one of those tractors, you can get a 42, 44, 48, or I believe a 54-inch deck. And it doesn't matter which tractor you buy, the deck is separate and they all fit. So I really wanted the 42-inch deck, and that gives me the freedom to sneak between narrow areas and still have a garden tractor. So let's start with the motors. The John Deere, this is a 24-horse Kawasaki, and I believe this is an FS series. The Cub Cadet and some of them would use an FR series, and they're both really good Kawasaki's, but I know the John Deere Kawasaki is just a little bit better. If you go on Kawasaki's website and look up the FS versus FR, and I believe that's the right prefix. They're both really good engines, but one's just a little bit better than the other, and that's the difference between the Kawasaki and the Cub Cadet and the Kawasaki and the John Deere. Now, for fiscal year 2022, Cub Cadet doesn't have any Kawasaki's, and what I'm told, and I found this from multiple dealers too, is that they had some issues with reliability. The engines had some catastrophic failures, and then they also had supply chain issues. So for the 2022, Cub Cadet has only got Kohler engines in them as far as I know. So the John Deere has a 24-horse Kawasaki. This has a 25-horse Kohler, And John Deere used to have Kohlers, but John Deere's got this thing where they like to stick their name on the engine. And even though they didn't make the engine, John Deere doesn't make small engines. They put their name on the Briggs & Stratton or the Kawasaki's, so people think they're John Deere motors, but they really aren't. And so Kohler and John Deere no longer do business together because Kohler didn't like the fact that John Deere was slapping their name on Kohler's equipment. And whether that was a good business decision or not, I don't know. But Cub Cadet, you can see that they all say Kohler on them. So the filter here says Cub Cadet, but there's a whole bunch of spots on the motor that actually say Kohler. And you can see that it does say Kawasaki here on the John Deere. But when you look at the top, see it shows John Deere motor. Then you look at the top of the Cub Cadet and you can see in great big block letters Kohler. So that's just one little minor point. As far as engine reliability, I really think the Kawasaki is probably a better motor. I think the Kawasaki makes a premium engine, and I am not slighting Kohler. I think Kohler still makes and always has made a really good motor, with the exception of a couple of their really low-end motors. They had some issues with them, but this is their best motor. This is their Kohler Command, and it runs pretty quiet. It really gets the job done. All the maintenance points are really easy to access, and one thing I like about the Cub Cadet is that the motor is horizontal shaft, where that's vertical shaft. Now if you get one of the belt drive ones, that's different, but what the small engine mechanics tell me is that the horizontal shaft is actually better as far as oil, lubrication, and all the specifics. I couldn't tell you exactly, but I am told by small engine mechanics that a horizontal shaft engine typically will last longer than a vertical shaft. And I can tell you, just for ease of service, this one is way easier than that one. They both have full pressure lubrication. All the service points are really easily accessible on this one. And what's happened is I've put this tractor shovel on the front, and the only way I can really service the motor on this John Deere is to remove the hood. And so you're forced to either hold the hood open, which you can't even open it all the way now because the tractor shovel blocks it. But in order to service the plugs, or pretty much anything on this tractor, it's all in the front, and I have to take the hood off. John Deere recommends that you pull this kick panel off right here to change the oil, but it's not necessary. The battery service, really easy to get to. With this version of the Cub Cadet, the battery's in behind that panel, and the reason for that is the electronic power steering. There's a circuit board in there, and they don't want you to fry it, so they really want you to think about what you're doing before you slap some jumper cables on this motor. As far as motors go, I do think the Kawasaki is a better motor, but I think Kohler makes a good quality motor as well. So again, I think the win goes to John Deere as far as the quality of the motor. When we start talking about ease of service, the win goes to the Cub Cadet. It's really much more easy to access the engine and service all the maintenance points on the Cub Cadet. So win goes to Cub Cadet on ease of service. Cast iron, they're really apples to apples on the front ends. The power steering now, that's a little bit different. The John Deere has hydraulic power steering, so both of these tractors use what I call the premium quality Carlisle. The Turf Masters are a little bit better than what you get on the lower quality tractors. These have more of a round shoulder to them, and they get a lot better traction. They don't tend to ball up as quickly, and they're really soft, so the ride is much better. Cub Cadet, whether you buy the GS or the GSX, the GS comes with this small bumper on it. The GSX has the full brush guard, and it's really easy to service it. You want to use two hands. You don't want to pull it in the middle because then it kind of goes off balance. But if you put one hand here and one there and lift up straight, it comes up really quickly. You've essentially already got a hydraulic pump on the tractor when you have a hydrostatic transmission. And the difference when they have hydraulic lift or hydraulic power steering is just more ports coming off the hydraulics. So you've already got the base system. It's just whether they choose to add the extras on it. So I think the hydraulic power steering really is better than the electronic power steering. This one is really low effort, and this one is about the same as a tractor that doesn't have power steering, except that when you're stationary, you will notice that you have power steering rather than manual. So I really thought that this would be as easy to steer as this one, but that's not true. So the win goes to John Deere as far as the power steering goes. When we look at the hoods of these tractors, they're both one-piece plastic, and then for the most part. And I've had several of these John Deeres. This one right here replaced a John Deere 325, which was really, in my mind, a superior tractor to this one. It, as far as the deck goes, you could rotate the wheels on the deck this way, and then you could just slide the deck in and out. It made it really easy to put a 54-inch deck on because you weren't trying to manhandle the whole deck. And this one doesn't have it, so I really am disappointed that they didn't carry that on with this tractor. Now, the back tires, this one here, the 530 and the 580 have these multi-field track tires, and they're 24-inch instead of 23-inch. And this one really has exceptional traction. They're like an ATV tire, and I've never had issues on the lawn. Some people are worried this will tear your lawn up, and I guess it can if you're really aggressive with it, but I have not had issues. So 24-inch multi-terrain tires, I really feel like are the win over the turf tires, but I haven't had issues with this one either. It's just that this is a much wider tire, and you can see this one's just the... So the GS, which is the non-power steering, non-power lift tractor, has an even narrower tire on the back. This is still the premium Carlisle tire, so you really are still getting a great ride with the Turfmaster. John Deere is using the same rims that they've always had way back into the 60s, where they're reversible, so you can get a couple more inches of clearance. You can move that tires in and out by just swapping sides with it, and so you get just a little bit more width, and that's really good if you're going on hills or you just want some more a broader stance. The Cub Cadet, they've abandoned that, and I'm not sure when exactly they did it. I know if you were to go back to the late 1990s, they were still using this type of tractor tire and rim, but they went to an automotive-like style 4-bolt hub, which is still good, but you can't really reverse the tires anymore to get any more width out of it. So as far as the tires and the ability to get more traction or more clearance or a better wheel width adjustment, I think the win goes to the John Deere on that one. Cub Cadet, this is a premium tire, so don't get me wrong, it's a really good tire, but you've got no options as far as widening this up. If you want a different tire than this, you're forced to go to a third party and buy a different tire. Now, I see some people put the R1 agricultural tires on these. I've had those as well on some other tractors I've had, and I haven't had issues on the lawn, but that's just a side note. As far as the manufacturer is concerned, this is what you get, and that's what you get. So win goes to John Deere on that. Foot controls, they both have what John Deere pioneered this. I want to say in the 90s they went from their heel toe hydrostatic transmission, which they made available to all the other manufacturers maybe about 20 years ago, to this twin touch pedal forward reverse. And it's really my favorite transmission as far as hydrostats go. I don't like the rocker pedals. I don't like heel to toe. I've gotten used to this, and some people will fight you tooth and nail about that. My personal preference is I do like that twin touch hydrostatic. I'm used to it. I've always liked it, and I find it really easy to use. My footrests are not cluttered with other pedals or anything. You're not going to accidentally push a pedal. And I just find that the twin touch hydrostatic is really much more user-friendly, in my opinion. John Deere uses a Kanzaki Tough Torque K72 transmission, which is basically the hallmark of a garden tractor transmission. It's really beefy, it's serviceable, and you can see it's got a giant axle on it. It's just a really rugged transmission. With Cub Cadet on this tractor, they've got a BDU-10, and I haven't had any issues with it. This is my first experience with this type of transmission. The only thing I've noticed is that when you use this, which I'm still calling the twin touch, I don't know what else to call it, when you let off the reverse pedal, it is a little bit jerky, so it's not as smooth as the John Deere. So I'm going to have to give the win to John Deere on the transmission, just because that one is so much smoother. This one you really have to feather taking your foot off reverse, and I'm getting used to it, but I really find the John Deere, the win is on that. If you're in the tractor seat for a long time, I really find that the Cub Cadet has really gone a long way. They've gone above and beyond with making their seats really comfortable. And so both of these tractors have an aftermarket seat cover on them. This one fits like a glove. It really does fit well. The seat is super comfortable, and I really feel like I'm sitting in an armchair when I'm in the Cub Cadet. John Deere, you know, it's a cheap aftermarket seat cover, and one thing I've always had trouble with John Deere is the seats ripping. It's vinyl. It's not super comfortable. This one is like I'm not going to take this off because it's really form-fitted for the tractor, but it's so much more comfortable. If I had to spend a lot of time on the tractor seat, I'm going to give the win to Cub Cadet because you've got the high back, and yes, John Deere does have another version of the tractor, I think the X590. The 540 used to have a taller, like a compact utility tractor seat with more back support, but they were still vinyl. And I really, really think the Cub Cadet has the win. They've gone the extra mile to make this more comfortable. They've got armrests, and even with the XT1, XT2, you can buy an armrest kit. And it's a little pricey, but really, Cub Cadet gets the win as far as operator comfort when you're sitting in the seat. Let's talk about controls. The Cub Cadet feels really comfortable. The steering wheel's nice. I've got power steering. You've got tilt wheel. This has separate choke and throttle controls, which you know, I go one way or the other. I don't necessarily care. I'm used to either one, so it's not a big deal. Either way is not a deal breaker for me. Cub Cadet doesn't have gauges. They've just got this little tiny microscopic LCD display with no backlight on it, and you're supposed to be able to read what that says, which can be hard. It's not impossible, but it's not readily visible, so it's a little difficult to see it. So on the left, you've got your parking brake and your cruise control. With the cruise control in the Cub Cadet, when you're moving, obviously the brake's not set, so you just pull it up like you would for the parking brake, and that sets your cruise control, but it's got a predetermined max speed as far as cruise control goes because they don't want you theoretically mowing it wide open, so it'll decelerate to what they feel is the maximum safe mowing speed. So if you're just running up to the neighbor's house and you shove your foot down, throttle up, and you hit this, you're not going to go wide open up the road. And so that is an issue with me. I do drive up the road occasionally. I'm on a dead-end street, and sometimes I go up to the neighbor's house for one reason or another, and you have to end up just keeping your foot down on the hydrostatic pedal. So as far as the cruise control goes, the win goes to the John Deere because whatever you set it at, that's where you are. The PTO control on the John Deere and the Cub Cadet are essentially the same. They're both electric PTOs, and they work just as well. So it's a tie there, and neither one is really better. Where I think Cub Cadet has outdone itself is with this master switch right here, and it's really simple. Some people take issue with it, and I don't understand why. But so you got your tractor running here, right? And then all you have to do, come up to here, push that once, and you're in business for the remainder of the time that you're mowing, unless you stop the tractor, and in which case you have to do it again. So sitting on the John Deere, they have a much better dashboard here. The instruments are really easy to see. And with the new version, they're actually backlit, so that makes it even better. And the only thing on this little LCD is your hours, which in my mind, that's what it should be. This one's not a liquid-cooled tractor. The X540 was, so they have the same dash. So that one's not used, but here's your oil and your power takeoff. Again, you've got your separate throttle choke, so it's really the same. Your power lift is here. And I do take issue with this. It's broken a couple times. John Deere's rectified that with the new X570, 590. They've changed the design because this was a problem. With the 325 I had, there was just a hydraulic valve right here on the dash, and I found that really easy to use. So with John Deere, when you're mowing, you have your tractor running like this, and then you're supposed to lift this up when you go in reverse. Now the way around that is if you've got the dealer keychain with a little rubber thing on it, you can have this lifted up and you have the rubber shoved in between the crack here, and that pretty much eliminates the requirement for using the Rio because you're already holding it up. With John Deere, when you're backing up, otherwise you have to hold this up, and you can You can see a little bit of play there, and so you just have to think when you're backing up to do this, which is also very simple, and I don't have an issue with it either way. So I have a really hard time making a determination which one's better. I think as far as technology goes, I'm going to go with the Cub Cadet for the win, because you really don't have to mess with it. Again, this one right here, you have to either, like I said, pull it up every time you back up, or jam something in this crack right here to hold it up, which, you know, the dealer told me just to shove the rubber key thing in there, and that worked until it fell off. And so here's your parking brake and your cruise control here. With the Cub Cadet, this has electric deck lift, and so here's your up down. The only thing about the Cub Cadet is you don't know when you've reached the end of travel either way. You can't really hear the solenoid clicking with the tractor running, so you kind of have to guess. I've seen instances where people have had to replace the whole assembly, and you know, I'm guessing buying that from Cub Cadet is going to be expensive, but it's just a standard off-the-shelf electric lift, so you can get them a lot cheaper. But that said, you shouldn't have to buy one anyway. It should be good for the life of the tractor. So I don't know that that was the best design. I do like it. The electric lift is it's great. It works perfect. But I don't know when it's reached the end of travel either way. And so burning out that relay or the solenoid or whatever you want to call it is a possibility. I want to go with the John Deere only because I just like hydraulic lift. I like the hydraulic power steering, and I like the hydraulic lift. There's nothing else to think about. You don't have to worry about breaking something else because it's all integrated. You just do it. Now with the John Deere, you lift your deck up all the way, and then you set your height adjustment by this knob. You don't do it while the deck's down because you've got pressure on it. So you lift the deck up all the way, and then you just set this knob wherever you want it to be. And every time you go down on your hydraulic lift, it just returns to the set position. With the Cub Cadet, it's not really the same. You set your deck height, and then when you want to bring this up, let's say you set it at 2, you want to bring the deck up all the way, it won't come up all the way. This one will come up all the way every time. This one won't come up past wherever your deck height is. So you have to bring this back each time. So I think it's a decent idea, but I really just think the win goes to John Deere on the deck lift. Again, the hydraulics is just so much simpler than the electric lift. With the John Deere, there's no tilt wheel. It is what it is. So while you can move the seat back and forth, you are stuck with whatever position the wheel is. So as far as that goes, the win goes to Cub Cadet because they've really ergonomically designed this tractor. It's comfortable. It's easy to see where everything is except for the dash, which I really think needs work. They really missed an opportunity to have 100% on the whole operator station by making this so chintzy. They both have differential lock. This one here is kind of cool. You stop the tractor. It'll work while it's in motion, but they advise against it. So right now it's off, and then you just lock it in, and it stays locked in until you decide to take it out. So it's basically like, you know, you shift your car in four-wheel drive, and it stays in four-wheel drive until you take it out. Yeah, I know there's cars now that are all-wheel drive, and they go, you know what I'm saying. Those of you who are used to shifting into four-wheel drive to have four-wheel drive know what I'm talking about. With the John Deere, you've got a foot pedal here, and what happens is you're slipping. You're still supposed to stop. You're not supposed to engage the traction lock while you're moving because it'll strip the gear. Ask me how I know that. It wasn't with this tractor, but trust me, you need to stop the tractor before you engage the diff lock. And then once both wheels are spinning at the same time again, the diff lock kicks out. So every time you need the diff lock, you have to engage it. With this right here, so it means you have to stop the tractor each time. With this one here, you stop it once and keep it on, so when you're done wherever you're mowing, and I found this mostly comes in handy when I'm on hills. So as far as differential lock goes, Cub Cadet hands down. In conjunction with that, the brake pedal's on the left, and your go pedals are on the right. With John Deere, everything's on the right, which isn't a problem once you get used to it. It's not like a utility tractor where they have separate wheel brakes. That design, I can't figure out why they have 2 brakes with the go pedal on the same side. You don't have that many feet. So regardless, Cub Cadet hands down as far as differential lock and brake pedal location. You know, the John Deere, looking at the rear here, they both fuels in the same place. The rear light on that is something I added, so that wasn't a dealer option. It was just something I wanted when I was blowing snow. Both of the transmissions are super easy to service. Where I'm going to go next is the fact that John Deere has really beefed up the whole hitch point here. There's a 1/2-inch washer welded right in the bottom here, so you've got a really thick mounting point for your trailers. Cub Cadet is just a piece of sheet metal that's bent down here, and I've already bent it. You can see I've already stove it up. So I've got a really strong hitch point there, and I've got a piece of bent tin here. So I don't know why they would put something like this on a garden tractor. That seems like they missed an opportunity there. So as far as, like, you know, hooking trailers on and hauling heavy loads, John Deere has got the win on that. They both have headlights. The Cub Cadet headlights are on when the switch is on. John Deere, you have to turn them on. And John Deere has, these aren't lights on the back, they're just reflectors. So they got reflectors on the back, which, you know, if you're snow blowing after dark, you've got something. Cub Cadet doesn't have anything there, so you'd have to add something. So, you know, we're just going nitpicky things right now, but John Deere has gone the extra mile here in this. In my mind, turn the lights off and on when you want them, and you've got a little bit of protection here on the back. Additionally, John Deere has these handles on it, so if you're kind of on a little bit of an incline or wherever, you're just looking around behind you, like when you're tilling, I tend to like to have my hand on something, so the hand rests are kind of nice. I do think some of the Cub Cadets have a hand rest on them, I'm not sure. You could probably make something. I've seen some people do some funky things, but as far as that goes, you know, John Deere's got the win on that. Let's talk about attachments. Cub Cadet's website and John Deere's website, they both list all the attachments that are available. Note, the operator manual I got from John Deere, you know, it's a little bit higher quality. It seems like they really put some effort into the pictures. The cover with the Cub Cadet, you know, the John Deere box store ones, you pretty much get one of these in a bag, and hopefully they didn't leave it outside and the pages aren't all stuck together. But for Cub Cadet's top of the line tractor, I would hope I'd get something better than something somebody ran through their Xerox machine. As far as fit and finish goes, I really think it's a tie. Cub Cadet has a pretty good fit and finish on this tractor. With John Deere, when I bought this weight bracket on the front, only one side was tapped out, and I had to tap the other side. So I feel like the QC on John Deere wasn't that great, and so people like to rag on MTV about their quality control, but John Deere, nah, I really think they're about the same on that. Yeah, everybody can make mistakes, but if my front weight bracket came with only one side tapped, how many other ones were the same? Let's talk about price points. This tractor right here, to replace it now, just the tractor and a 54-inch deck is going to run you $9,000 plus tax. I bought this tractor 7 years ago with a snowblower, the mower, and a hydraulic tiller for $9,000. So they've gone up significantly in 7 years. This has gone up too. However, this tractor was just a little bit over $6,000 with a 42-inch deck. So you're looking at $3,000-ish in difference between the John Deere and the Cub Cadet. So maybe the Cub Cadet doesn't have all the frills, bells, and whistles as the John Deere, but $3,000 is a lot of money. So for $3,000 difference, I went with the Cub Cadet. It does everything I need it to do. I'm happy with it. I don't have tons of hours on it yet. I've got 170 on this one. I've only got 10 on this, so we'll do another review, you know, in a year or so, and we'll see how the Cub Cadet's holding up. Right now I'm super happy with it, but I should be at 10 hours. If it's got issues at 10 hours, I really have a problem. I for sure did my homework on the Gsx when I bought the Cub Cadet. My brother had the GS. He loved it, and the reviews online were pretty good. And I really hope I'm not going to be disappointed, but so far so good. I really like the Cub Cadet. So I guess it just depends on what your budget is, what you're looking for. Are you just going to mow and tow some lawn tools, or are you planning on doing some heavy-duty gardening? I think the heavy-duty gardening is really where the difference lays. The snowblower that I got with the John Deere was a 47-inch snowblower, was a huge snowblower, and it just had a tiny little belt that ran it, and I was always blowing the belt. So yeah, the Cub Cadet has a 3-stage snowblower. My brother never blew a belt on that. I blew the belt on this so many times. As far as snowblowing, the Cub Cadet, hands down, way better snowblowing tractor. The snow blades, the front blades, you know, John Deere makes a good one. Cub Cadet's more of a snow blade than a dirt blade. You can get a sleeve hitch for both. I actually have a hydraulic sleeve hitch for the John Deere. You can get one for the Cub Cadet. It's a manual lift. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure if John Deere has a hydraulic sleeve hitch anymore. They did when I bought this, and it was pricey. And I had to take the whole fender deck off to install it. But it's a really, you know, it's hydraulic. That's what I wanted. I don't want to have another hand lever off to the side. I think if I did get a sleeve hitch for the Cub Cadet, I'd buy an electric actuator and do it that way with electric switch. So make your own decisions. I hope this has been beneficial to you, to give you a little bit more of a heads up and non-biased opinion on which one, you know, you should buy. And keep in mind, these are garden tractors. These aren't lawn tractors. If you want to know the difference, I've got a video, and I'll put that down below, on the difference between a lawn tractor and a garden tractor. And in between, you've got yard tractors, and that's kind of the sweet spot. You can't really do ground engaging, but they have a heavier transmission and some other things that are a little bit. Sometimes I call upon these to do a little bit more than what they were designed for, and they hold up pretty well. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. Please take a moment, like the video, give me your comments down below. I really want to hear what you have to say, what your thoughts are. Please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.